Hi guys, in this video we're going to be talking about the NHS and a recent number of articles that have come out concerning in the Hertfordshire region of North London and how they're deciding to discriminate against patients who are obese as well as their smokers. Now before I get into it, I just want to state this fact, whether we like it or not, healthcare at the end of the day is a limited resource. There are only so many hospitals, beds, care facilities, doctors, nurses, drugs, equipment, and else things that are available in terms to care for any given population. And as such, even if you petition Parliament, the United Nations, and you have some government fiat declare all healthcare some kind of human right, it still doesn't change the fact that it is a limited resource, and the realities surrounding a limited resource are still going to apply. And that means rationing, whether we like it or not. Now, in the free market, rationing takes the form of prices. The more rare something is, the more expensive it tends to be. But in the case of single-payer system, rationing takes the form of wait times and discrimination against patients. Now that brings me to the series of articles concerning the NHS services in the Hertfordshire region, where the overseeing body has decided that any person who is obese or is a smoker is going to be denied non-emergency surgeries. Now, non-emergency surgeries doesn't mean it's not life-threatening, but at the end of the day, doesn't mean the person is not in some kind of discomfort. These kinds of procedures would include things like vasectomies or herniated discs or just hernias in general, as well as cataracts, maybe even if you wanted to donate an organ or any of these types of things. So again, suggesting that these people are not allowed to get these types of surgeries unless, if you're obese, you have to bring your BMI below 30 or lose 10% of your body weight, whichever one is more, not necessarily which one is easier. And for smokers, it means they have to show that they've quit smoking and they will actually be breathalyzed in some capacity before they do any surgeries. Now, I have a lot of criticisms about this in terms of just the morality behind it, but I do understand that this is the reality of a single-payer system. They're going to have to try to ration this type of care in some capacity. I'm disturbed by the fact that they're choosing to ration care for what was potentially the most sick possible demographics that they could actually be caring for. And I think this is what really disturbs me, as again, people who are morbidly obese and these other kinds of things tend to have a lot of other complications, not to mention the number of complications that do come from smoking. But again, it's not for the NHS to moralize at the lifestyle of these people. That is not necessarily the role of the NHS. Their job is to care for the population. Now, I already have a series of concerns about the NHS system, many of which I've addressed in a previous video that I will actually put a link to below. But very concerning about this entire thing is the use of the BMI index, which is the body mass index used to determine if somebody is obese or not. Now, this again is an arbitrary number that's been set by some bureaucrat who has no idea about the individual patient. It's taking the power out of the patient-doctor relationship and inserting the state with something that's completely arbitrary and is actually very inefficient at determining if somebody is in fact obese. Not long ago, and I will put a link to the article below, there was a female bodybuilder by the name of Anita Albridge who was actually told by the NHS nurse that she was obese, and I will put a picture of her up here so that you could get an idea of what that is considered. Now, the BMI is simply a weight to height ratio. It doesn't take into consideration lifestyle, muscle mass, or any of these other kinds of factors. And quite frankly, muscle tends to weigh more than fat, so that's why athletes and bodybuilders and the like tend to show up on the BMI as being obese, even though they might in fact have a very, very low fat content in their actual body. So yes, even for myself, I think I have a BMI close to like 30, 31 or something like that, which means that even in myself, I am potentially excluded from a lot of these different types of surgeries. So that again is probably why I'm a little concerned about this. Now, I have a lot of objections to the NHS system, and I've offered a couple of solutions also in my previous video. But there are a number of things that the Hertfordshire region could have done to actually save on cost. And the first thing was to abolish the gatekeeping of the general physician. Now, for those who don't know, if it is that you have an issue with your eye, you first go to your GP. And if it is that such as cataracts or something like that, he will refer you to an eye specialist who will then, schedule the surgery or whatever the case might be. But instead of being able to go directly to the eye specialist because you have an issue with your eye, you have 2 visits instead of just 1. And this idea that the GPs are serving as gatekeepers is adding an extra cost, administration, bureaucracy, and all of these other things to what is already a very bloated bureaucratic nightmare. So that's just one avenue that the state could have done in terms of opening up the system. I would advise things that even letting pharmacists be able to, write small prescriptions for small creams and ointments. Again, not requiring a doctor's visit for this, something that, is rudimentary and can be solved from a pharmacist's perspective. And again, you need to introduce more competition and more innovation in order for this system to actually begin saving cost. But again, that's not going to happen because at the end of the day, there's no political will to do that. So it's much easier to discriminate against the sick. So today it's the obese, tomorrow it's the smokers, eventually it's the elderly, and so on, to maintain the integrity of the system for those who profit from the system, not necessarily for the benefit of patients. And yeah, I wanted to share my views on this. Again, we could definitely have the discussion. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. If you disagree with me, that's absolutely fine. You can put your comments below. And as always, I'd like to thank you all for watching, guys. Take care.